Hi guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about a more sensitive issue, and that would be the labor laws of Japan. I was pretty hesitant about making this video because I don't want it to sound like I'm ungrateful or just complaining about a job I didn't like, and which I personally feel is not the case. Like, I'm very grateful to be able to work in a foreign country and have a visa and be able to pay my rent and feed myself. Like, I'm not ungrateful about that, but I do want to bring up something in case somebody is in a similar situation. If this is the first video of mine that you're watching, then welcome. My name is Nicole. I live in Tokyo, and like many foreigners in Japan, I'm an English teacher. So I guess I should start with a little bit of background about the job that I had. And it was an international school. I can't give you the exact name of the place because they could probably sue me for slander, but there are a ton of schools in Japan that advertise themselves as international schools, and international school sounds, well, especially at the preschool and kindergarten level, sounds especially appealing to Japanese families, I think, because it will give them the chance to educate their child in English the way that a native speaker would also be taught. And of course, at many international schools, there are a ton of children from different countries because there's a lot of foreigners living here too. But I don't think there is a trademark on the term international school, because a lot of these places are not legitimate international schools, but of course some of them are. So I would encourage you, if you're looking to work at an international school or send your children to an international school, that you, well, obviously you can take a tour or do a trial lesson, but ask a lot of questions about their curriculum, because I think that's kind of a dead giveaway. Now, this school that I worked at for 1 year, there are a lot of things I didn't like about it, but they're pretty standard problems for any English teacher in Japan or any foreign country, which would be like no curriculum at the school, so you have to write all of the lesson plans yourself, lack of prep time, having too many teachers with one student, and those are really common issues though, so that's not what I'm here to complain about today, because I don't actually know anybody who's an English teacher who gets enough prep time or their class is the perfect size. Like, those are just things you kind of have to deal with. The part that was illegal at this school was that nobody got a break. Now, at a lot of schools, you're required to eat lunch with the kids. There would be time later in the day for you to have like an actual break where you can leave the school. But at this place, nobody got a break. Nobody could leave for more than maybe 15 minutes at a time without getting their pay deducted, even though in the contract it stated that a 1 hour break would be granted. And also, according to the labor laws of Japan, which I have here a copy of the Labor Standard Law of Japan, in both English and Japanese, it says that if your working hours exceed 6 hours, then at least 45 minutes of break time should be granted, and if your working hours exceed 8, then you should get 1 hour of break time, at least. So that's where the issue lies that I want to talk about today. When I first started at this school, I was really surprised that nobody was getting a break and nobody was really addressing the issue either. And I thought that if I wanted to bring up the issue or have some kind of action be taken to address it, I thought I would have to get a lawyer, which isn't not necessarily the case. Now, initially I had just let it go, and I did complete the 1-year contract for this job and of course fulfilled all of my duties as a teacher. The reason that I stayed there was because I really loved my coworkers and they've become some of my best friends. So I just kind of let the lunch break thing go and was just grateful for the fact that I could work with some of my really good friends. And of course the kids were really great too. The problems with teaching jobs a lot of times is not really the students, but usually with management. And towards the end of my contract, I had a conversation with a person who had been living in Japan for 10 years teaching English, and they had mentioned a school that they worked at previously that got sued for paying incorrectly for overtime. So that was not my situation, but it got my attention, and I asked her like how they began, and then I found out about the labor standards office. So I'm sure that in every prefecture in Japan they have them, and in Tokyo there's more than one office, but there's one in Shibuya where that's where the actual investigators are for the labor standards. But if you go directly to that office, you need to either be fluent in Japanese or to have a translator with you. My level of Japanese is kind of just like daily conversation, which is not enough in this situation where legal matters are involved. But there's another office in Kudanshita, and they have English-speaking advisors there, and you can go there for a free consultation. So that's where I started. I made an appointment and went in for a free consultation with someone at the Kudanshita office, and I will leave their information below. Even if you don't have time to actually go in there and consult with somebody, especially if you're working Monday through Friday and your break time is not enough to do this kind of thing, you can actually fax them all of your documents and of course include a cover letter just so they know who you are, and then leave a phone number for them to reach you so you can speak to them that way. So I went there with a copy of my contract, previous pay stubs, email correspondence from the employer, and some other things that I'm probably forgetting. And one of the first things the advisor asked me to do was to send an email to my employer. This was pretty soon after my contract ended when I actually started to pursue it. So at this point it was my former employer, who was a foreigner, by the way. I forgot to mention this before. It was not a Japanese-owned school, it was a foreign-owned school. So the advisor told me that I needed to send them an email and explain to them that I didn't get a break and that essentially I should be paid overtime for the lunch break that I didn't get. And I was actually pretty nervous to send this email because I already knew that the answer would be no and that they would make up some excuse about why we didn't have a break, but I suppose there have been some situations in the past where it could have been worked out between the person and their employer without having to involve the labor standards office. So the first thing that they asked me to do was to just email them and ask, just so that if they responded with a solid no, then that could be more proof in my case. So of course they said no, and they told me that my break was from 12 to 1 p.m. and that I just chose to stay at the school and not leave. But after that, the Labor Standards Office was able to open the case. So about a month later, they sent an investigator to the school, and I think my previous employer told them that our break time was sometime in the afternoon.
What is the truth?
And we didn't have time cards or anything, so the conclusion of this case was just that I didn't have enough proof to actually be able to do something about the situation. My goal in this was not to get the money back for the lunch break I didn't take, although of course if I could get money from it, then great. But my goal was more to open up their eyes about the treatment of their employees, because some of my friends still work there, and there will be people working at this school in the future. So I wanted to just kind of make it a better place for the current and future teachers. I heard that they have written breaks for the teachers into the schedule now. Although it's only 30 minutes, I guess there's some hope that they'll get a break now. One of the most entertaining parts of this process for me was that soon after I had sent the initial email to my employer asking about the lunch break situation and the money for it, he held a meeting with the teachers who were still there, and he told them that if anybody was still in contact with me, then they would be fired immediately. So I kind of felt like the leader of a revolution or something, some kind of like rebel that was in hiding because he was threatening to fire people just for talking to me. I'm not sharing this story because I want it to seem like I'm some kind of advocate for employee rights in Japan, but yeah, it's just the fact that nobody else was speaking up about it, so I just took one for the team. I left the company and then pursued it, and hopefully they actually do get that 30-minute break that's written into the schedule. Now, the lesson I have learned from all of this would be to keep track of the times that you're working. Even if your company doesn't provide you with a time card system where you punch in and out, keep track of it yourself every day, just in case, because you never know when you'll have to use this information in the future. And save all of your pay stubs, your contract, any documents related to the job, and keep track of any days that you're sick, on vacation, or left early. And finally, I want to open up a discussion with you guys about your experience working in Japan or another foreign country. What constitutes a good company, a bad company? What are the labor laws in your country? And just general working experiences that you've had. So you can either leave a comment below or you can message me privately on Instagram or Twitter. And for anybody who's looking for a job in Japan and you're not, well, specifically English teaching jobs in Japan, and you're not quite sure if the place is good or not, I mean, obviously I don't know every school, but if you want to ask me about it and see if I've heard anything, maybe I have a friend who's worked there, then yeah, please message me and I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So thank you guys for watching, and hopefully my next video will definitely be about some more lighter topics. So bye guys.